Thank you for watching this information session. We'll be breaking this into two parts. The first part about your passwords and your logins, and the second one will be about your computer itself. So this is an information session we do for all newly migrated users, and it's also useful for people who have joined Eurofins to understand the way we work in IT infrastructure. So the core of this discussion is about the user data storage policy. It's one of the various KGDs that Eurofins has. Eurofins has quite a few KGDs. Many of them are for business practices or for laboratory practices. There's also KGDs for finance, marketing, and KGDs about IT. Many KGDs are just for the particular group that they're targeted for, so we have many IT KGDs which you will never see because they're purely about how we in IT infrastructure do our job. But there are two KGDs in particular that everybody does have to read: the user data storage policy and the password policy. And we'll be looking through the password policy and referring to the user data storage policy in this process. So when you do join the Eurofins network, we do require that you have a read over the user data storage policy. It's about 40 pages. It can be a bit dry, but there are a lot of tables, a lot of information that isn't particularly relevant. So it is, the purpose of the information session is to give you the main points from the user data storage policy, so when you do have an understanding of what you do need to be paying attention to and what you can skip over. So on top of this user guide email, there is a number of hyperlinks to various policies. We do recommend you have a look through these because they will assist you in understanding what we're talking about and how you use your computer and email down the track. We do need to make a point that this session is not in lieu of reading the KGD, the user data storage policy KGD. It is to assist you to understand it when you do have a read of it. When we finish the migration process, we do come around to you with a checklist that finalizes the migration, and one of the items on that is that you acknowledge that you have read it and understood it, so we get you to sign that you have. So we do ask that you have a read of it. So the first thing you need to know is how to log into your computer, and that's using your PUID. Your PUID is your personal user ID. It's assigned by Eurofins, and it's an alphanumeric code. If you don't already know it, then we'll let you know what that is. The other component of signing into your computer is your password, and we'll have a look at the password policy because it's probably the easiest way to explain what we're looking at. So it's a fairly short KGD, so it's a fairly easy read. You can see at the top here, it's a must read for all system users. So that's rare for a KGD, but it does mean it's applicable to everyone, and so it must be read by everyone effectively. So what we'll do is we'll look at the restrictions first. The password rules are that the password must be at least 10 characters in length. It mustn't contain your name, your PUID, or parts of your name. It should contain at least 3 out of the 4 of uppercase, lowercase, number, or symbol. It can contain 4, but it only needs to have 3. Passwords mustn't contain strings of either identical or consecutive characters. So 1, 2, 3, 4, A, B, C, D can't be your password. It shouldn't contain any words or number or symbol substitutions for words. So password is not an acceptable password, and password with $signs for the S's is not an acceptable password. It can't contain any variant of the word Eurofins, so no fins Euro or Euro 123 fins. And it needs to be different from the last 4 passwords that you used. So the reason why we don't use words are because the easiest way to crack a password is what's called a dictionary attack, where the bad guy has a dictionary including words with number substitutions and symbol substitutions. For every word in the dictionary, add prefixes or suffixes like A or exclamation mark at the end, or 1, 2, 3. And if you're using a password like that, it will get cracked fairly easily. Passwords must also be changed every 6 months. So it's a fairly onerous password requirements. And of course, we do ask that you do not write it down, you do not post it on your computer, you don't put it in a note in the drawer. Obviously, that would stop an online hacker getting access to your account, but it wouldn't stop the cleaner or someone else in your lab gaining access to that password. So yeah, please don't write it down. So we're asking you to have a password that is complex, doesn't have repeating numbers or letters, doesn't have words, is changed every 6 months, and can't be the same as the last 4 passwords, which is effectively the same as the last 2 years. So most people throw up their hands and go, I can't do that. I can't think of a password that complex and still remember it and not have to write down. So the way we recommend your passwords are developed is through a mnemonic. So an example here on this, the KGD is Fred and Wilma like to have ham and eggs for dinner, and the password there has got the required complexity. It can never be hacked and can never be guessed, and your password will stay secure, and it will also be easy enough for you to remember. So back to the user guide, we've got some examples here of other passwords. They could be anniversaries, if you have a habit of forgetting your wedding anniversary or your wife's birthday or your husband's birthday, then you can put down, I married my partner on the 23rd of May, or whatever that date is. Affirmations, I'm going to be a great employee this year, I'm going to win the Employee of the Year award this year, I'm going to make my section the best section in the lab, whatever you want in an affirmation. Goals, I aim to run a half marathon by Q4. Or hobbies, as it says, Sharon goes to netball training at 5 p.m. every Wednesday night. So everybody can think of a story or a sentence that relates to you that you can easily remember, and use the first letters or numbers of that sentence to develop a 10-character complex password. So we do ask you to think of a password that's relevant for you before we do your migration. So when we come around to you, you've got one ready to go. The advantage of having a mnemonic password is you can still write down a password hint for yourself, which doesn't give away your password. So for example, your password is, I like to go fishing every second Sunday when it's sunny. Your password hint can be fishing, you can put it in your diary, you can put it on a post-it on your computer. You forget your password, you go, what was it? Oh yeah, it's a fishing password. So you can go, I like to go fishing every second Saturday when it's sunny. If you forget your password, just let us know and we can reset it for you. What we can do is give you a one-time password, which you then use one time, obviously, and then reset your password yourself. As the 180-day mark approaches, you will get a notification from our systems in the form of an email saying your password will expire in X number of days. You don't have to panic and change it straight away. You can wait until the 179th day if you wish to change it, or you can change it whenever you get the first reminder. A question we often get is, what happens if I go away and I'm away for my 180th day onwards? That's not a problem. Basically, the first time you try and log in after your password is expired, it'll tell you expired and you need to set a new one. So you should never get stuck. So as I mentioned, please do think of a password that is sufficiently complex, that tells yourself a story that you can remember. So when we do come to migrate you or set you up on the network, you can simply type it in and away you go. So that's the first component of password policy, having one good password for your Eurofins systems. But there's no use having a good complex password if that's the only password you use across every system that you use. So that's whether that's a online login for your ISP or mobile phone contractor, whether it's a client login with your clients, whether it's other Eurofins systems, whether it's other external systems, whether it's your bank accounts, your Hotmail account, your Netflix account. If you use the one password across multiple systems, you exponentially increase your risk of getting that password compromised, and therefore all your access compromised, or possibly compromised at least. An example of that is a number of high-profile services have been hacked in the last handful of years. Sony PlayStation Network, Apple to some extent, a number of other online providers, and certainly in Australia, until very recently, there's been no requirement for those companies to actually tell you that they've been hacked. So there was a recent example where a company was hacked and they didn't tell people for 3 years afterwards that their password's been compromised. So we certainly recommend that you have a different password for every application that you access. But of course, if you have multiple complex passwords for multiple applications, you will not remember them all, and we don't expect you to. So if you do need to log into other systems or services from your computer, from your laptop, let us know and we will install what's called Password Vault. This Password Vault in Eurofins' case is called KeePass. It's a free application which is installed on your computer. You need to come up with a one-time, never-changing master password for that vault, and then it does what it says. It's a password vault. It locks away all your other passwords. It's also got a password generator which provides you the complexity as the user data storage policy requests. As you can see here, it wants you to use a 20-character password for any external system. So it's quite easy to set that as a 20-character default. It generates the password, and away you go. So I'll load up my KeePass to provide an example. So here's my KeePass. You can break it up into different folders. This one here is retail, so where I buy particular computer components from. And each site has its own password stored. It's quite user-friendly. If you double-click on the website, it'll go to that website. You can then right-click, copy username, paste it in, and right-click, copy password, paste it in. You don't need to remember anything. So it fills it in quite simply. So as mentioned, if you are using any other systems within Eurofins on your device, please let us know and we'll set up KeePass for you and show you how it's used. We also strongly recommend that you adopt a password vault for your home computer, your home activities. There are plenty of free solutions out there, as well as paid solutions. I certainly know from my experience 10 years ago, I used to have the one password for every system I logged into. It was a good password, but as mentioned before, if one of those services got hacked, then that's your password exposed for all your services. So if you have got the one pass across many systems, we very strongly recommend that you do adopt a password vault. Certainly if you are accessing personal sites from your Eurofins device, we would strongly recommend you use KeePass or another alternative. So that's the first half of the session. The second half will be about your computers. Okay, the second part of the information user guide is about your computer. So on your computer, Eurofins restricts the ability to install software or uninstall software on your computer to only service desk agents. It's quite restrictive. It does mean you can't just install any program you want or uninstall something you don't want anymore. There's two principal reasons for that. The first one is security. Many viruses can spread through executable attachments and emails, and if we block executable files, which means files that install programs, then we block viruses. So the main reason is for security purposes. The secondary reason is to manage the PC environment across Eurofins globally. There's probably 40,000 PCs across Eurofins, and if every person installed their own applications, their own versions of applications, then that would make it almost impossible for Eurofins IT service desks to standardize processes, to standardize software delivery, and to standardize maintenance. So we do have a restrictive policy on software. Basically, if it's not on a list of approved software, it can't be on that computer. For new computers, clearly we simply only put on approved software and give it to you. If we are migrating your computer from those who have been on a different network in the past, there is likely to be software that is not on that approved list. We will not simply delete it from your computer unless it happens to be games or non-work related software, in which case we don't allow them to stay. If it is needed for your job, we do keep it on there, but we do need to go through the process of approval. So there is a hyperlink here to the DMS page for the ITEC process. It looks a bit daunting, but effectively you're checking a couple of yes/no boxes. You're describing what you need the software for. You then need a sponsor from the IT world, whether it's IT solutions for business applications, IT infra for standard applications like Office, or specialized approvers from finance or other teams. If you haven't done this process before, then please come to us and we can step you through it. It is fairly painless, and approvals are normally approved within 48 hours. Software is normally only rejected if it is either already on the banned list or if there is an alternative which is just as effective. So you may get a feedback saying, sorry, you can't have the software, but here's the alternative. If that's not acceptable to you, or your software is simply banned, then we can find ways to escalate that. Just note, all instrument software, all business critical software is not going to get rejected. It's only sort of peripheral software, or software, as I mentioned, that has an alternative already in place that may get rejected. So that's the first half of the software component. So the other component of software management on your computer is that we restrict the installation or uninstallation of software on your computer. There's no point us delivering a nice standardized PC to you if you can go ahead and install whatever you want on it 5 minutes later. So if you do need to install software on your computer, please contact us. The service desk will then assist you installing that software. In some cases, the software can be fully installed by us, for example, Microsoft Office. Some other software, for example, laboratory instrumentation software, we're not going to be able to assist you in configuring it, but you will need to us to be able to approve the start of the installation process. So please contact the service desk for that. Similarly, if you need to uninstall something, please contact us and we can assist you in uninstalling it. So the next component of your computer is file storage. There are 4 methods for storing data when using your Eurofins PC. The gold standard, the top level solution is Eurofins Business IT Solutions. Basically, they're applications managed by Eurofins and generally hosted in our data center in Hamburg, which is called EHAD, the Eurofins High Availability Data Center. So these applications are, for example, DMS, which is our document management system, which is a SharePoint site for all our KGDs and other documents. Microsoft CRM, which is our customer relationship management software. D4, which is quality management. ETQ, which is document management, often used by pharma, and a number of other applications. So if you have documents that need to be shared across business lines, between entities, between countries, up to high levels in Europe, then DMS and other applications like that is the best place to put it. If you need access control, versioning control, checkout control and check-in control, DMS and other applications are the best place to use them. So please contact us if you need assistance accessing DMS for the first time. We have an APAC DMS page for APAC operations, but also there's an international DMS page for international documents. That's where most of our KGDs are stored. If you have documents that don't need to be shared across countries or between business units or entities, then your file server is the natural place to put them. That's not going to change from what you've always used in the past. Basically, there'll be a folder that's set up with access permissions that you have access to, which you can add and delete and remove files. That's the best location to store files that you're sharing amongst a team or a site or an entity. If you're working on files on your own computer that you are not ready to share yet, or you want to that are more sensitive, that you want to restrict to your access only, then storing them on your laptop or your desktop is the best place to put it. Typically, we're talking about laptops here. There is a folder on your computer under My Documents called Eurofins Data, where we ask you to save all your files that you store locally. All desktop users also have a H drive where you can also save files for you. In the event you're using an archive for your Outlook emails, which we'll discuss in a minute, they'll also be saved in this location. You'll also be provided with a personal data folder. This is, of course, for personal information. Only you can access this folder. We need to note that that location is not backed up. Backups. For desktop users, anything you store in the file server is backed up, and the H drive is a direct link to the file server also, so basically everything is backed up. We do have the backup process which will back up anything on your desktop, but generally for desktop users, don't save anything locally, please. For laptop users who obviously work on the go occasionally, you will need access to your files when you're offline, for example, when you're on a plane. Saving files locally is critical at times, so please always save it in that location that we mentioned before, My Documents, Eurofins Data. That's where the backup process backs up from, also from your desktop. If you save files elsewhere besides your desktop in the Eurofins Data folder, they won't be backed up by our backup process, so it's critical that you save files there. You can trigger the backup process anytime you wish. We can also set up default triggerings of the backup process depending on what your MD decides for you. There will be a widget delivered on your desktop. It may or may not look like this one here, which is an older version. It gives you information about your computer, which you may need to be able to discuss problems with your computer with our service desk. Also a link to create a backup process. Also links to critical Eurofins documentation, and we also customize the widget to provide shortcuts to applications that are relevant to you, your teams, your site, and your entities. So when we install the widget for you, please let us know if there are shortcuts you need, and we can apply them fairly quickly to the widget. Please note we don't build individual widgets, more for teams or sites or entities. The last component is your email. When you're migrated to your Eurofins network, you will be assigned a Eurofins email address in the form first name, last name @eurofins.com. In the event your name is taken, then we will use first name, first initial, last name @eurofins.com. In the event that someone has that initial already, then we will have to ask headquarters for guidance. A short version of your email is also provided in the form of puid@eurofins.com. So for example, my PUID is HACO, so my secondary email address is haco@eurofins.com. Any emails sent to your puid@eurofins.com address will be forwarded straight to you. So it is an alias of your main account. It's not a second mailbox per se. Some people find this alias useful if your name is a long name, it has got unusual spelling, people on the phone find it difficult to understand what you're trying to say, or if you have to fill out a form and you don't want to write out your whole name. So there are a number of use cases which may be applicable to you. If so, please just use your puid@eurofins.com and that email will get to you. The requirement of joining the Eurofins network is that we decommission all legacy domains within 6 months of the migration process completing. Note that's the end of the migration process, not the start. So if it happens to take us 6 months to do the migration process, then it'll be 12 months before your legacy address is decommissioned. The process we follow is a customized one for our region. Basically, we bring your old email addresses into our email system. So the legacy email domain process is we migrate everybody onto the new email address. We also migrate any generic addresses or distribution groups onto the new email addresses. Then we coordinate a process of phasing out the old emails with your managing director. That typically involves a graduated series of responses to senders saying this domain will be closing soon, please use the new one. This domain is closing very soon, please use the new one. This domain is closed, please use the new one. And eventually then we cut the emails off completely and they're decommissioned. We do have the ability to keep some critical legacy email addresses if need be. For example, any managing directors or specific accounts. So depending how quick the process goes, those legacy email addresses may disappear within 12 months or 18 months or 2 years, but in the end they will disappear. So we do strongly recommend as soon as you're migrated to update your signature, and we'll come to that in a second, but also to update any printed material, business cards, flyers, posters, to update your website, your Google addresses, your Yellow Pages addresses, anything that relates to your old address, email addresses, please update them as soon as possible. The last thing we want is for you to have emails come in from a client that contacts you once every 6 months and you forget to update them, and by the time they email you, they get a hard bounce from the email system. Please also note that if you use your email address to log into applications or services on the web, which many people do, we strongly recommend you make that change as soon as possible. You don't want to leave it the last minute. You don't want to find yourself having to reset your password in 1 or 2 years' time because you forgot it, and that password reminder email goes to your dead legacy account and you can no longer reset your password. So please try and think of all situations where you use your legacy address and have them changed as quickly as you possibly can. Your Eurofins email will have a 1 GB cap. This means that your mailbox can hold up to a maximum of 1 GB of emails in your inbox and sent box, and all folders, of course. If this cap is reached, you will not be able to receive or send emails. Anyone sending an email to you will get a bounce notification saying, sorry, this person's mailbox is full. So it is critical that we do not let that mailbox fill up. It is your responsibility to make sure that mailbox doesn't fill up. We need to make that clear. But it is our responsibility to make sure you understand how to keep your mailbox clear. So at any point you have any questions or concerns about that, please let us know. We're here to help. The mailbox itself is stored in EHAD. We have probably 20,000 users in EHAD on our Exchange server, so that's why we have a cap in place. If there was no cap, then we wouldn't be able to store all those emails in that one location. There are a number of ways of managing your mailbox to avoid that cap being reached. Please note you will get email reminders from Outlook every so often as your mailbox gets fuller and fuller, so you will get plenty of notice that the mailbox will be about to fill up. There are a number of ways to prevent your mailbox filling up. You can either curate, which means removing emails you don't need. You can archive either manually or automatically using the auto archive feature. There are other options as well, and there are various ways to achieve this. Please talk to us about that either during your migration or at any point. We can show you some ways to make this fairly pain-free. Depending on the backup solution for your emails chosen by your MD, you will either have what's called a PST attached to your mailbox, which is a record of all your old emails and your archived emails, or you may have an online cloud solution for your email backup, which does cost money. So depending on the solution chosen by your MD, we can show you how those. Please note that Outlook remembers the addresses of people you've emailed in the past. So as you're migrated and other people in your entity are migrated, we recommend you delete all the old email addresses. As you can see on the user guide there's an old email address for me as well as my new one. If you delete the old one, you won't find yourself accidentally sending to the old email address. So this is the way for us to ensure that emails go through the new system as quickly as possible. We also recommend that you notify your clients and customers and people who contact you that your email address has changed so they can start sending emails to your new address as soon as possible. Eurofins has a policy on email signatures. When we migrate you, we will set up your signature in accordance to that policy. Please don't modify your signature by changing fonts, colors, or sizes. If you do change roles, positions, or locations, please just update the text, not the format of the signature. Please note if you require disclaimer text at the bottom of your emails for legal purposes, let us know. We can assist in setting that up. Please note apart from disclaimer text, we don't normally add anything below your signatures such as pictures or hyperlinks. If you need email on your phone, please let us know at the time of migration. We can set that up for you. Please note there is a mobile device management policy which is hyperlinked at the top of this user guide, which we ask you to have a look at. The mobile device management policy defines which devices we allow on the network and which ones we don't. Most we do. We have a wider range of devices allowed for BYOD than we do have for company phones. Typically company phones are only Android devices. Also please note that if in the event your phone is lost, stolen, and we have email set up on that phone, contact us straight away, and what we need to do is do a factory wipe of that device. If you decide to leave Eurofins and take your phone with you, please contact us before you depart so we can remove the email. Otherwise we will be forced to do a factory reset also of your device. So please always make sure you do a backup of your device, especially including your contacts. So in the event your phone does get wiped, you don't lose everything. So to cover the migration process itself, the migration process can take anywhere between half an hour and a couple of hours, depending on the complexity of your setup, depending on whether you're attached to instruments or whether you're just a laptop user. We don't need you there for the whole process, but we do need you there for some of the process. So your presence and patience is always appreciated. For the timing, we do like to get this done as quick as we can, but we do understand this is an interruption in the business. So we will work around your timetables and your working hours. So we do appreciate your assistance in making this process quick and efficient. If you do have any issues with the migration process during or after, please contact us straight away. We want to make sure this is a smooth transition. If you have any concerns before the process, please speak to me or the service desk or your manager and we can address those concerns. Thank you for your time. If you have any questions, please contact me directly. Otherwise, we hope your migration is a smooth and simple one. Thank you.